photographer's dream assignment, the morning sun painted Charleston in shades of gold and amber as Jasmine Rivera stepped out of her rideshare, camera bag weighing heavy on her shoulder. The Grand View Resort towered before her, all gleaming glass and southern elegance. It's the kind of place that made her small Brooklyn apartment feel like a shoebox. She had been shooting corporate events for 3 years. But this assignment felt different. Bigger. The kind that could change everything. Her boss at Prestige Events Photography had been clear. The Ashford Hospitality Group was launching their newest luxury property, and they wanted every moment documented. No mistakes. No second chances. Jasmine had spent the previous night checking and rechecking her equipment. Her stomach tight with nervous energy, she adjusted the strap of her camera bag and walked through the lobby. Her sneakers silent on the marble floors, crystal chandeliers caught the light, throwing rainbows across cream-colored walls. Staff members moved with practiced grace, preparing for the evening's grand opening celebration. Jasmine felt out of place in her casual jeans and fitted black shirt. But she reminded herself that she was here to work, not to be a guest. Chasing the perfect shot, the event coordinator, a brisk woman named Patricia, had given her a quick tour earlier, but Jasmine wanted more. She wanted the shot that would make people stop scrolling, the image that captured not just beauty, but feeling. She had noticed the rooftop pool during the tour. Her photographer's instinct told her that was where magic would happen. Checking her watch, she saw it was barely 8 in the morning. The gala did not start until 6 that evening. She had time. The rooftop would be empty, the water still, the light perfect. She could get establishing shots without guests cluttering the frame. The elevator ride to the top floor felt endless. Her reflection stared back at her from the polished doors. Dark curls pulled into a messy bun, brown eyes bright with anticipation. She looked tired. The red-eye flight from New York had not been kind. But adrenaline pushed her forward. When the elevator doors opened, she caught her breath. The rooftop pool stretched before her like a mirror, reflecting the cloudless sky. Infinity-edged design made it appear as though the water flowed directly into the harbor beyond. Palm trees swayed in the gentle breeze. White loungers lined the deck in perfect symmetry. Jasmine pulled out her camera, professional-grade model that had cost her 3 months of savings. She moved around the space, crouching low, standing on chairs, finding angles that would make viewers feel like they were there. The click of the shutter was rhythmic, meditative. This was when she felt most alive, most herself. The fall that changed everything, she stepped backward to capture a wider shot, focused entirely on the composition in her viewfinder. Her foot landed on something slick, a puddle left by early morning cleaning perhaps. The world tilted. Her arms windmilled, camera clutched desperately to her chest, but gravity won. The cold water hit her like a wall. She gasped, inhaling chlorine in panic, the camera strap tangling around her wrist. She kicked upward, breaking the surface with a spluttering cough. Her clothes clung to her body, heavy and uncomfortable. The camera dangled from her wrist, water streaming from every port and button. No. This could not be happening. Her chest tightened with panic. That camera was not just equipment. It was her livelihood, her artistic voice, her ticket to bigger opportunities. If it was ruined, she was ruined. A splash nearby made her spin around. A man surfaced a few feet away, dark hair plastered to his forehead, concern etched across his handsome face. He must have been swimming laps in the far lane, hidden from view by the morning glare. "Are you okay?" His voice was deep, steady, the kind of voice that made you believe everything would be fine, even when it clearly was not. "I think so." Jasmine tried to keep her voice from shaking. "Just my pride, and possibly my camera." He swam closer, movements efficient and strong. "Let me help you out." His hand was warm despite the cool water. Fingers closing firmly around her elbow as he guided her toward the shallow end. Jasmine tried not to think about how her white shirt was now completely see-through, or how this stranger was seeing her at her absolute worst. Trapped in darkness, they climbed out together. Water pooling on the deck. Jasmine examined her camera with shaking hands, pressing buttons that did not respond. The man draped a towel around her shoulders, then grabbed one for himself. "That is an expensive piece of equipment," he observed quietly. $5,000 worth of expensive. Jasmine felt tears threatening. If it is dead, I am completely screwed. I am supposed to be photographing the opening tonight. Before he could respond, the lights went out. Not just the pool lights, but everything. The sudden darkness was disorienting. Complete. Jasmine froze, her heart hammering. "Power outage," the man said calmly. "They have been testing the electrical systems all week. Sometimes things trip. There is a pool house with showers just to your left. We should get out of these wet clothes before we freeze." Jasmine hesitated. Taking a shower with a complete stranger seemed like the beginning of a true crime podcast. But her teeth were already starting to chatter, and he was right. The air conditioning was cold against her soaked skin. "Okay," she agreed quietly. "But you stay on your side." Deal conversations in the dark, they felt their way to the pool house, hands trailing along walls. Inside, the darkness was absolute. Jasmine heard him moving, heard the sound of a shower turning on somewhere to her right. "There are towels on the heated rack near the door," he called out, "and soap in all the shower stalls." Jasmine fumbled until she found the towels, thick and warm. She peeled off her wet clothes, grateful for the darkness that hid her vulnerability. The shower was easy to locate by sound, and when the warm water hit her skin, she nearly sobbed with relief. "I am Jasmine," she called out, her voice echoing off tile. Seems weird to shower near someone without at least knowing names. She heard a soft laugh from across the room. "What if we do not use names? What if we just let this be a moment outside normal life? Two people who happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time." The suggestion surprised her. But something about it felt freeing. No expectations, no judgments, just honesty in the darkness. "Okay," she agreed. "No names. So what brought you to the Grandview?" he asked. Besides an unexpected swimming lesson, Jasmine smiled despite everything. "Work. I am a photographer. I was trying to get shots of the pool before the crowds arrived. Clearly, that went well. You are the photographer for tonight's event." "Yeah, or I was. Hard to photograph anything with a waterlogged camera." His voice was closer now, though still a respectful distance away. "What made you become a photographer?" Jasmine leaned against the shower wall, letting the water wash away the chlorine and stress. "Because cameras see truth. They catch the tiny moments people forget to hide. A laugh that reaches the eyes. The way someone's face changes when they see someone they love. Every photograph is a story, even if it is not the story you meant to tell." "That is beautiful," he said quietly. "You really love what you do, most days." Today is testing that love pretty thoroughly. They talked as they showered, voices carrying through the steam and darkness. He told her about growing up in Charleston, about his mother who cleaned houses to pay for his education, about building something from nothing. There was careful vagueness in his answers, but the emotion was real. Jasmine found herself sharing things she rarely told anyone. Her parents dying when she was 12, her grandmother raising her in a tiny apartment in Brooklyn, using her grandmother's old film camera to make sense of a world that felt too big and scary, how photography gave her purpose when everything else felt meaningless. Time became liquid in the darkness. Could have been 10 minutes or an hour. When she finally turned off the water, wrapped in a fresh towel, she felt strange. Connected to this stranger in a way that should not be possible. When the lights come on, the lights blazed back to life without warning.
Harsh and sudden.
Jasmine blinked against the brightness, her eyes adjusting slowly. And then she saw him. He was beautiful in a way that made her breath catch. Strong jaw, dark eyes that seemed to see right through her, dark hair drying in waves. He wore only a towel around his waist, revealing a body that spoke of discipline and care. But it was the intelligence in his eyes that really captured her. The gentleness in his smile. "Hi," he said softly. "Hi," Jasmine managed. Suddenly very aware of her own towel. Her lack of makeup, her damp hair. They stood there, just looking at each other, the moment stretching between them like something fragile and precious. Then reality crashed back in. the gala, her ruined camera. Her job? I have to go, she blurted. I need to see if I can salvage my camera, and I need to change, and oh God. The event starts in less than 10 hours. Wait. He stepped forward, water still dripping from his hair. Can I at least get your number? In case you need help with the camera repair or anything? The offer was tempting. More than tempting. But Jasmine shook her head, grabbing her wet clothes. I will figure it out. Thank you for everything. She rushed out before he could argue, before she could do something stupid like kiss him or ask him to forget the gala and spend the day showing her Charleston. Her heart was pounding as she made her way back to her hotel room, clutching her camera and soaked clothing. The big revealers later, Jasmine stood in the ballroom, backup camera in hand. She had managed to dry her hair and fix her makeup. The simple black dress she wore was professional, forgettable, perfect for blending into the background. That was her job, after all. To be invisible, the ballroom was magnificent. String quartet playing softly. Champagne flowing. Charleston's elite mingling in designer clothes and practiced smiles. Jasmine moved through the crowd, capturing candid moments. Staying out of the way, ladies and gentlemen. A voice boomed through the speakers. Thank you for joining us tonight. It is my honor to introduce the visionary behind the Grandview Resort. The CEO of Ashford Hospitality Group, Derek Ashford. Jasmine raised her camera automatically, zooming in on the stage, and froze. It was him. The man from the pool, the stranger she had shared a shower with in the dark. He stood in the spotlight, wearing an impeccable navy suit, commanding the room with easy confidence. Derek Ashford, billionaire. Her client, oh God, Derek was speaking. Thanking investors and the design team, his voice smooth and professional. Then his eyes swept the crowd and landed on her. She saw the recognition, saw his carefully controlled expression falter for just a second. And I want to especially thank our photographer tonight. Derek continued, his gaze locked on hers. Jasmine Rivera, who went above and beyond today. Please, Jasmine, join me on stage. Every eye turned to her. Jasmine wanted to disappear, to sink through the floor, but there was nowhere to hide. She walked to the stage on shaking legs, very aware of her backup camera, her simple dress, her complete mortification. Derek extended his hand. Thank you for your incredible work today. Miss Rivera. His handshake was warm, professional, but his eyes held something else. Recognition, connection, a promise of conversations yet to come. Thank you. Mr. Ashford, Jasmine managed, her voice barely steady. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. She photographed speeches and toasts, captured the elegant chaos of Southern society at play. But she felt Derek's presence like a magnetic pull, always aware of where he stood, who he spoke to, how his eyes would find hers across the room. When the event finally ended and guests began trickling out, Jasmine was packing her equipment when a familiar voice made her turn. We need to talk. Derek stood there. Jacket off, tie loosened, looking somehow more approachable and more dangerous, all at once. Her mouth went dry. Mr. Ashford, I did not know who you were, she started. I know. He stepped closer. And I did not know you worked for my marketing team. Although I probably should have asked your name when I had the chance. You said no names. Jasmine reminded him, fighting a smile. Worst decision I ever made. He was close enough now that she could smell his cologne, subtle and expensive. Jasmine, about today. About everything that happened? It was a mistake, she said quickly, even though her heart was screaming the opposite. We should both just forget it. Derek studied her face, his expression unreadable. What if I do not want to forget it? What if that hour in the dark was the most honest conversation I have had in years? Jasmine's breath caught. The air between them felt electric, charged with possibility and danger in equal measure. This was her client. This was professional suicide. This was everything she should not want. But God, she wanted it anyway. I should go, she whispered, not moving an inch. Derek smiled, slow and devastating. Yes, you probably should. His hand brushed hers, barely contact at all, but it sent lightning up her arm. But Jasmine, I am not done with this conversation. Not even close. He walked away, leaving her standing alone with a racing heart and the distinct feeling that her carefully ordered life had just been thrown into beautiful chaos. And somewhere, in the back of her mind, she realized that falling into that pool might have been the best accident of her entire life. The morning after Jasmine woke to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Her phone buzzed angrily on the nightstand, pulling her from dreams filled with dark eyes and warm hands and chlorinated darkness. She groaned, reaching for the device with one hand while shielding her eyes from the Charleston sunlight streaming through hotel curtains. Most of the messages were from Patricia, her supervisor. The photos from last night were apparently spectacular. The client was thrilled. There was talk of additional contracts, expanded opportunities. Jasmine should have been celebrating. Instead, her stomach twisted into anxious knots, because the last message was not from Patricia. It was from an unknown number, sent at 2 in the morning. I know we said no names yesterday, but I cannot stop thinking about the woman who fell into my pool and told me the truth about why photographs matter. Dinner tonight? Just dinner. No expectations. Derek. Jasmine stared at the message for a full minute, her thumb hovering over the reply button. This was complicated. He was a client. She was a contractor. There were professional boundaries, ethical considerations, 100 reasons to politely decline. She typed back, "Yes, 7 o'clock. His response came within seconds. "I will pick you up. Send me your hotel address." Jasmine fell back against the pillows, equal parts terrified and exhilarated. What was she doing? This was not like her. She was the responsible one, the girl who always colored inside the lines, who built her career on professionalism and reliability. But something about Derek made her want to be reckless. Something about their conversation in the darkness had cracked open a part of her she thought she had sealed away after too many disappointments, the professional collision. The phone rang again. This time, it was Patricia, and her voice was sharp with urgency. "Jasmine, excellent news. Derek Ashford personally requested you for a major project. 6 months, full-time contract, photographing the development and launch of their new eco-resort in Savannah. This is huge." Career-defining huge. Jasmine sat up, her heart sinking. 6 months? Starting immediately. Well, next week, technically. They want you embedded with the design and construction teams, capturing the entire process from groundbreaking to grand opening. The budget is generous, and the exposure would be incredible for your portfolio. It was everything she had worked toward. The kind of opportunity that came once in a career, the kind that separated hobbyists from professionals. But it also meant 6 months of working closely with Derek, 6 months of navigating attraction and professionalism, 6 months of pretending that shower conversation had not happened. "Can I think about it?" Jasmine asked weakly. Patricia's laugh was brittle. "Think about it. Jasmine, people kill for opportunities like this. What is there to think about? Just give me until tomorrow morning. I need to review my other commitments." The lie tasted sour on her tongue, but Patricia accepted it. Jasmine ended the call and stared at Derek's text message, wondering if dinner tonight would make her decision easier or impossibly harder. First date in secret, Derek picked her up in a car that probably cost more than her annual salary. But he drove it himself. No chauffeur, no entourage. He wore jeans and a simple button-down shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, looking more like the man from the pool than the CEO from the stage. "You look beautiful," he said when she slid into the passenger seat. Her sundress was simple, yellow cotton that made her feel like sunshine, and his compliment made her blush. "Where are we going?" she asked as they pulled into traffic. "Somewhere we will not be photographed or interrupted. Somewhere I can actually talk to you without putting on the CEO mask." They drove south along the coast. Windows down, warm wind tangling Jasmine's hair. They talked about everything and nothing. He asked about her grandmother, the woman who had raised her with strict love and high expectations. She asked about his daughter, mentioned casually during their dark conversation, and watched his face soften. "Her name is Rachel. She is 15 and thinks I am hopelessly uncool." He smiled, but there was old pain in his eyes. Her mother and I divorced 5 years ago. Amicable as these things go, but it still broke something in Rachel. She lives with her mother in Atlanta, visits me on holidays and summers. That must be hard, Jasmine said quietly. The hardest thing I have ever done. Harder than building a business or managing investors. Being a part-time father to a daughter who needs me full-time. He glanced at her, vulnerability naked on his face. Does that scare you off? Jasmine considered the question seriously. No, it makes you human. Makes you real. They arrived at a small seafood restaurant perched on weathered docks. The kind of place locals treasured and tourists never found. Inside, Christmas lights hung year-round, and the smell of fried shrimp and hush puppies filled the air. A server with kind eyes and a thick southern accent led them to a corner table overlooking the water. Over dinner, they dropped the careful distance they had maintained. Derek told her about his first failed business, a tech startup that crashed spectacularly and left him broke at 25. Jasmine shared her fear of never being good enough, of being defined by tragedy rather than talent. When my parents died, people looked at me differently, she explained, picking at her coleslaw. I became the poor orphan girl. Everything I achieved was impressive for someone with my background. Like I was performing a magic trick instead of just living my life. Derek reached across the table, his hand covering hers. Your work stands alone. I chose you before I knew your story. Before I knew anything except that your portfolio made me feel something. The touch sent electricity through her. She should pull away. Should establish boundaries. Instead, she turned her hand over, lacing her fingers through his, about the Savannah project. She started, I know, Derek interrupted gently. Patricia told me she called you. I probably should have mentioned it last night, but I wanted one conversation that was not about business. It is 6 months, Jasmine said. 6 months of working together, of trying to be professional when all I will be thinking about is that pool house. His thumb traced circles on her palm. So we figure it out. We set boundaries. We do not let anyone question your professionalism or talent. And when the 6 months are over, we see where this goes without contracts hanging over our heads. It sounded simple. It sounded impossible. Jasmine wanted both to run away and to lean closer. What if it does not work? She whispered. What if we ruin this before it even starts? What if we do not try and spend the rest of our lives wondering? Derek countered. Jasmine, I have dated plenty. Socialites and executives and women who looked perfect on paper, and I felt nothing. Nothing like what I felt talking to you in the dark. Nothing like what I feel right now. The complication enters, they were finishing dessert. Sharing key lime pie and pretending their knees were not touching under the table when Derek's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted, something shuddering behind his eyes. I need to take this. Give me 1 minute. He stepped outside, and Jasmine watched through the window as he paced the dock, his body language tense. When he returned 5 minutes later, the easy warmth had been replaced by careful control. Everything okay? She asked, business complication. My former business partner is causing problems. Derek signaled for the check, his movements sharp. Nothing for you to worry about. But Jasmine recognized the deflection, the way he had suddenly rebuilt walls. The rest of dinner felt different, conversation flowing but missing the earlier intimacy. When they drove back to her hotel, silence filled the car at her door. Derek walked her to the entrance, but did not try to come up. Thank you for tonight, he said formally. Jasmine felt the distance like a physical thing. What happened back there? At the restaurant. Derek ran a hand through his hair, frustration crossing his face. My ex-business partner, Grant Thorne. He is launching a competing resort project and trying to poach my investors. The call was my lawyer warning me that Grant is digging into my personal life, looking for anything he can use against me. The meaning hung between them. Dating the photographer. Mixing business and personal relationships. The optics would be terrible. So this was a mistake, Jasmine said flatly, hating how much it hurt. No, Derek stepped closer, cupping her face with both hands. This is the only thing that feels right. But I need to be smart about it. We both do. Take the Savannah job. do incredible work. Let your talent speak for itself. And we will be careful. Private, so we hide, Jasmine said. So we protect what matters. He leaned down, his forehead resting against hers. I am not good at this. At being vulnerable, at risking something that actually matters. But I want to try. If you do, Jasmine closed her eyes, breathing in his scent, feeling the warmth of his hands. Every logical part of her brain screamed danger. Every other part wanted to leap. Okay, she whispered. We try, carefully. He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When he pulled away, she was breathless. I will see you in Savannah, he said. She watched him drive away, her fingers touching her lips, wondering if she had just made the best or worst decision of her life, building something real. The next 6 months became a study in controlled chaos. Jasmine threw herself into the Savannah project with single-minded focus. She documented every stage of construction, captured the vision Derek was building. Eco-friendly design that did not sacrifice luxury. Local materials supporting regional craftsmen. Beauty that honored the land rather than dominating it. Her photographs told the story Derek wanted to tell, but they were undeniably hers. Raw, honest, finding beauty in unexpected places of workers. Calloused hands holding new seedlings. Morning light filtering through reclaimed wood. The curve of a staircase that echoed the live oaks outside. She and Derek maintained careful professional distance. During work hours, but 3 nights a week, he would text her an address. A quiet restaurant 2 towns over. A secluded beach. Once, his private boat where they anchored in a cove and watched the stars. They talked. Really talked? Derek told her about the pressure of maintaining his business, about his fear of failing Rachel, about growing up poor and never quite shaking, the belief that he did not belong in boardrooms and country clubs. Jasmine shared her dreams, not just career goals, but the quiet hopes she rarely voiced. A permanent home instead of temporary apartments, creating art photography that was not for clients but for herself, maybe someday a family of her own. They kissed. A lot. But they kept things careful, aware that too much too fast could burn everything down. It was frustrating and exhilarating, the slow building of something that felt permanent. In month 3, Derek invited her to meet Rachel. His daughter was visiting for spring break, and he wanted her to meet Jasmine. Casually, he said. No pressure. Rachel was tall and serious, with Derek's dark eyes and a teenager's masterful skepticism. She looked Jasmine up and down at dinner and said, So you are the photographer Dad cannot stop talking about? Guilty, Jasmine smiled. Though hopefully there are other topics of conversation. Not many, Rachel admitted, and something in her expression softened. Can I see your work? They spent the next hour looking through Jasmine's portfolio on her tablet, and Rachel asked smart questions about composition and lighting. By the end of the evening, she was showing Jasmine photos she had taken on her phone, and they were discussing angles and editing apps. She is good, Jasmine told Derek when Rachel went to the restroom. She does not open up easily. Derek said quietly, his hand finding Jasmine's under the table. Thank you for seeing her. Really seeing her? When the press attacks Menth for brought complications? Someone leaked photographs of Derek and Jasmine having dinner, and suddenly their careful privacy evaporated. Industry blogs picked up the story. The comments were brutal. Ashford's new arm. Candy. Photographer. Sleeps her way to major contract. Another. Powerful man, using his position inappropriately. Read the articles despite knowing better, each one a punch to her confidence. Everything she had feared was happening. Her work was being reduced to who she was dating. Her talent questioned. Her integrity destroyed by strangers who knew nothing about her. She stopped answering Derek's calls for 2 days, shame and anger warring inside her. When he finally showed up at her Savannah apartment unannounced, she almost did not let him in. Talk to me, he said at her door, looking exhausted and worried. Please, they are right, Jasmine said bitterly, letting him inside. I got this job because of you. Because we met and you liked me and suddenly I have a 6-month contract I never would have gotten on my own? That is not true. Derek's voice was sharp. I saw your portfolio before I ever saw your face. Your work spoke for itself. I requested you because you are the best person for this job, not because I wanted to date you. But nobody will believe that now, Jasmine said. Every photograph I take, every success I have, will be tainted by this. Bias. Derek crossed the room, taking her hands. Then we prove them wrong. You do such incredible work that it becomes undeniable, and I support you publicly. Make it clear that your talent has nothing to do with our relationship. Our relationship, Jasmine repeated hollowly. Is that what this is? Because right now it feels like the thing destroying my career. She regretted the words immediately. But Derek flinched like she had struck him. He dropped her hands, stepping back. If that is what you think, maybe they are right. Maybe we are a mistake. The silence stretched between them, heavy with hurt and fear. Jasmine wanted to take it back, wanted to explain that she was lashing out because she was scared. But pride and pain kept her quiet. Derek nodded slowly, understanding something from her silence. I will have Patricia assign you a different contact person for the rest of the project. Professional boundaries, like you wanted. We will finish the contract, and then you can walk away with your head held high. He left without another word, and Jasmine stood in her empty apartment, wondering how something that felt so right had gone so wrong so quickly. The vindication the next morning. Jasmine woke to her phone exploding again. But this time, the messages were different. Links to articles, not about her relationship, but about her work. Derek had released a statement, but not the vague corporate nonsense she expected. He had published the full timeline. The dates her portfolio was submitted. The selection committee that had recommended her unanimously before he ever joined the process. He had included testimonials from other clients, samples of her work unrelated to his company, evidence of her talent and professionalism. More than that, he had addressed the criticism directly. Jasmine Rivera is an exceptional artist whose work will speak for generations. Our personal relationship began after her professional selection and has no bearing on her contract or compensation. Anyone suggesting otherwise is diminishing her considerable talent, and I will not stand for it. She is brilliant in her own right, and I am honored to know her both professionally and personally. Jasmine read it 3 times, tears streaming down her face. He had not hidden behind lawyers or PR teams. He had put himself out there, used his platform to defend her when she could not defend herself. She called him. He answered on the first ring. You did not have to do that, she said, voice thick. Yes, I did. His voice was quiet but firm. You were right. People were going to question your work because of me. So I made it impossible for them to keep questioning it without looking like fools. The timeline does not lie, Jasmine. You earned this. I am sorry, she whispered, for what I said. I was scared and angry, and I took it out on you. I know. We are both figuring this out, making mistakes. But Jasmine, if we are going to do this, we have to trust each other. Really trust. Even when it is hard. I want to, she said. I want to trust this. Trust us, then come to dinner tonight. Not hiding. Not sneaking around. Just to people who are dating and dealing with complications like every other couple? Jasmine smiled through her tears. Okay, yes. Where? The place where we had our first date. 7 o'clock. And Jasmine, where something you do not mind getting wet, just in case. She laughed, the sound startling her with its lightness. You are ridiculous. You like me anyway. The rooftop returned 3 months later. The Savannah Resort opened to rave reviews. Jasmine's photographs were featured in architectural magazines and travel blogs. Critics called them stunning, evocative, the perfect marriage of artistic vision and commercial appeal. Job offers poured in. Legitimate offers from people who had never heard of Derek Ashford. On opening night, after the speeches and champagne, Derek found her on the rooftop. They had built a pool here too, similar to the one in Charleston. It shimmered under the stars. Seems familiar, Jasmine teased. Leaning into his side, let us hope with a different ending this time. Derek pulled a small box from his pocket, and Jasmine's breath caught. I am not doing this because the project is over or because it is romantic or because of timing, he said quietly, dropping to one knee. I am doing this because you are the person I want to talk to in the dark. The person I want to share everything with. The person who makes me want to be honest, even when it is terrifying. He opened the box, revealing a simple platinum band with a single perfect diamond. Jasmine Rivera, will you marry me? Jasmine dropped to her knees in front of him, cradling his face in her hands. Yes. 1,000 times yes. They kissed on the rooftop where everything had started, minus the accidental swimming and power outages. When they finally broke apart, both laughing and crying, Derek held her close. So where do we go from here? He asked. Jasmine looked around at the resort they had built together, at the photographs that told their story, at the future spreading before them with terrifying possibility. Wherever we want, she said, together, and for the first time since falling into that pool in Charleston, Jasmine felt like she had finally found solid ground. The gallery opening 6 months after Derek's proposal. Jasmine stood in the pristine white space of the Hartwell Gallery in Manhattan, watching strangers examine her soul on display. The exhibition was titled Building Ground, a double meaning she found satisfying. It featured photographs from the Savannah Project, but also older work. Personal pieces she had never shown publicly before. Images of her grandmother's hands weathered and strong. The Brooklyn apartment where she had grown up, photographed just before it was sold. Portraits of construction workers, their faces telling stories of pride and exhaustion. And yes, a few carefully selected images from her early days with Derek, the ones that showed buildings rising but hinted at something else being built too. The reviews had been exceptional. The Times called her a photographer who sees not just beauty, but truth, who captures the space between ambition and humanity. Vogue featured her in their Emerging Artists issue. 3 galleries wanted to represent her permanently. Derek stood near the back of the room, letting her have the spotlight, but present nonetheless. He had learned to balance support with space, to champion her without overshadowing. It was a dance they were both still learning. You did it, her friend Monica whispered, squeezing her arm. Not because of him, because of you. Jasmine smiled, watching a couple pause before her favorite piece. A photograph of a doorway half-built, light streaming through the opening. Yeah, I really did. The ex-wife problem, 2 weeks before the wedding. Derek's ex-wife called. Jasmine answered his phone by accident, and a woman's cool voice said, I need to speak with Derek. It is about Rachel. Jasmine's stomach tightened. This is Jasmine. Is Rachel okay? Physically? Yes. A pause. I assume you are the bride-to-be? This is Naomi, Rachel's mother. We should probably talk. Derek had mentioned Naomi exactly 3 times in the year they had been engaged. Former high school sweetheart. Married young. Grew apart. The divorce was amicable, but painful. They co-parented Rachel with minimal conflict. But when Derek came home that evening, tension radiated from him before he even spoke. Naomi wants Rachel to skip the wedding, he said without preamble. She thinks it is too much too fast, that Rachel needs more time to adjust to the changes. Jasmine set down the seating chart. She had been reworking for the 3rd time. What does Rachel want? That is the problem. She told her mother she does not want to come. Derek collapsed onto the couch, exhaustion written in every line of his body. She said it feels weird watching me marry someone else, even though she knows Naomi and I have both moved on. The words stung, though Jasmine tried not to show it. She had been working on her relationship with Rachel for a year now, teaching her photography, having lunch dates when she visited Charleston, trying to be a friend rather than a replacement mother. But 15-year-olds were complicated, and trauma from divorce did not heal on anyone else's timeline. Maybe she needs more time, Jasmine said quietly. Even though the thought of Rachel missing their wedding broke her heart, Derek looked at her with something like desperation. This is supposed to be our day. Our family's starting. How can we do that without her? Jasmine crossed to him, kneeling between his legs and taking his hands. Because she is not ready yet does not mean she will not be ready someday. We can get married without her at the ceremony. We cannot force her to be part of something she is not comfortable with. You would be okay with that? Derek asked, searching her face. No, but I would be okay enough. She is your daughter, Derek. She comes first. Even before me? Even before our wedding? He pulled her up into his lap, holding her tightly. How did I get this lucky? You pulled me out of a pool, Jasmine reminded him, making him laugh despite everything. The next day, Jasmine called Rachel directly. They had exchanged numbers months ago, though they mostly communicated through silly memes and photography tips. Hey, Rachel. I heard you might not come to the wedding. I wanted you to hear from me that it is completely okay. Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, you are not mad? Mad? No. Jasmine sat on her apartment floor, back against the wall. Sad, yes. I will miss having you there. But I understand that this is complicated and weird and probably feels like too much. Mom says you are stealing Dad away. Rachel's voice was small, younger than 15. Jasmine closed her eyes, choosing words carefully. I am not trying to steal anything. Your dad loves you more than anything in the world. That does not change because he also loves me. But I know divorce is hard, and watching parents move on is hard. You get to have your feelings about all of it. Do you really want me there? Rachel asked. Or is this just something you are supposed to say? I really want you there. Jasmine meant it with her whole heart. But what I want more is for you to feel comfortable and safe. So if you need to sit this one out, that is okay. The wedding is one day. The family we are building is forever. You can join when you are ready. Rachel sniffled. Can I think about it? Of course. And Rachel, I am not trying to be your mom. You already have a mom. I am just trying to be someone who cares about you and sees how special you are. After they hung up, Jasmine let herself cry. Derek found her like that and held her while she grieved for the family moment that might not happen. The wedding was scheduled for a Saturday in late September. On the beach in Charleston, where everything had started, intimate, they had agreed. Just 75 guests, family and close friends. Sunset ceremony with bare feet in the sand. The morning of the wedding, Jasmine woke in her hotel room to knocking on the door. She stumbled over half asleep, expecting Monica with coffee and pre-wedding chaos. Instead, Rachel stood in the hallway, holding a camera bag and looking terrified. I changed my mind, she blurted. If the offer is still open, I want to be here. Jasmine did not think. She just pulled Rachel into a hug, feeling the girl stiffen and then slowly relax. Oh, thank God, yes, of course. They spent the morning together, Rachel helping with makeup and flowers, sneaking pastries from the continental breakfast. She showed Jasmine photographs she had been taking, and they were genuinely good. Thoughtful compositions, interesting angles, an eye for detail that reminded Jasmine of herself at that age. Dad does not know I am here, Rachel admitted while Jasmine was getting dressed. I wanted it to be a surprise. He is going to cry, Jasmine warned, adjusting her simple lace dress in the mirror. Good. Rachel grinned, looking suddenly so much like Derek. He needs to cry more. Keeps him human.